Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest on the stormy weather we do have that is persisting at the moment, that is now looking likely to get pretty severe as we do head into this upcoming working week. We have highlighted that there is the risk of two severe areas of low pressure moving in, one perhaps on Wednesday and Thursday, and maybe one Saturday into Sunday. And I said yesterday, it's quite likely that we see one of these systems named, at least the Thursday system named, and I thought perhaps Monday we were going to see it named, but no, today we have seen Storm Ciaran named, that is going to be arriving through Wednesday night into Thursday. Now this is looking not like an ordinary named storm. This is, I can't stress enough, looking at the moment as an extremely dangerous system moving up for much of England and Wales. It's a southerly tracking low pressure system, and its central pressure from some of the runs down to 940 or 950 millibars. Now, I have already seen some comparisons to the storm of 1987, as that followed a very similar track to what we're seeing for Ciaran at the moment, and had a very similar central pressure around the 955 millibars that got down to. So I'm already seeing those comparisons. We can't call it saying as severe as that until it actually arrives, but some of the models at the moment are looking really quite dangerous. I've seen some of the strongest wind gusts ever from the UKV in the last couple of runs, showing around 110 to 120 miles per hour down in the channel. Now that could be the only saving grace from the system at the moment, is that the centre of low is going to be moving through southern England or central England. The exact position isn't pinpointed yet, but it could mean that the strongest winds, the dangerous winds, winds that would likely have red danger to life warnings issued, could just about stay out in the channel. So we will have to have a look at that in detail in this video. So we'll run through what's going on at the moment. We'll look at the latest weather warnings as they now stretch all the way out to Thursday to include Storm Ciaran. Have a look at the latest UKV, which as I said is producing ridiculous wind gusts for the British Isles, and then we'll have a look at some of the longer range forecasts, looking at what they're showing, and of course for the potential for another storm as we head into the weekend. At the moment though, luckily doesn't look quite as severe, but still could have yellow amber warnings issued for it, and maybe even named storm status. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well. The link's in description. Now, to start the live radar, we've got lots of areas of convection around at the moment. We've got some persistent rain up in Scotland, up towards northern and eastern areas. Again, this originated as convection further southwards, but has transitioned more into frontal rainfall as it has headed northwards. As these small areas of low pressure have developed, bringing thunderstorms last night for many southern areas, flooding in places, now forming into large areas of more persistent rain. We are still seeing some quite significant convection across parts of Wales, down across the southeast, still seeing torrential rainfall in places, and there looks likely to be more batches of thunderstorms moving in from the south over the coming hours, and we've got numerous weather warnings issued that we'll have a look at in a minute for the next couple of days. And this doesn't even cover Storm Ciaran. This is the next few days in the lead up to Storm Ciaran, and then we've got Storm Ciaran arriving Wednesday into Thursday, and we have already got widespread rain and wind yellow warnings issued, which I do think pretty much guaranteed now to be upgraded at least to amber for the wind warning, and maybe even red if some of those strongest winds do come on shore. Now, if you look at the temperatures as of around 2 p.m. in the afternoon, it's a generally average day. Temperatures around the low teens. But again, not many people want to be stuck out in the heavy showers and thunderstorms and areas of rain we're seeing around at the moment. And if we do put on the past 24-hour precipitation, you can see how much rainfall has fallen in many areas. All of that convection across the southern areas. We've seen lots of these yellow areas, which is 30, 40, 50 millimetres of rainfall. And remember, this is only in the last 24 hours. Outside of the last 24 hours, going back the last 3-4 days or even a couple of weeks, these areas have accumulated into around 100 to 200 millimetres, especially right along the south coast from sort of Bournemouth all the way along to sort of Hastings, all the way towards Dover. This whole stretch has been smashed by convection and heavy rain over the last couple of weeks and the last few days specifically, and it's likely to continue, unfortunately, over the next couple of days. And of course, it's going to get exacerbated as Storm Ciaran arrives, where these areas are most likely going to brunt the strongest winds. Further northwards, we've seen widespread rain as well, and then you can see other areas where we've had weather warnings issued for northern England, into Scotland, and across Northern Ireland as well, where we have seen heavy rain, and it's widespread. That's the thing. Even areas we're not highlighting here, like the Midlands, many of these areas have seen 10 to 20 millimetres of rainfall, just nowhere near as significant as other areas. It really is an extremely unsettled spell of weather we've been in the last couple of weeks, starting with Storm Babet, and even before that, and now heading into Storm Ciaran and beyond. It's likely to get even worse. Now, to go over to the weather warnings, you can see we've got weather warnings issued for the next 5 days starting today. We've got this widespread rain warning issued for eastern areas. It does expire at 3 a.m. tomorrow, and you can see why on the live radar a minute ago. All that rain along the east coast. A lot of these areas won't see anything too significant, but there is the risk anywhere in this yellow warning zone. Has been updated early this morning, just changing the location and, of course, easing the warning slightly in places, changing the end time. Again, if you want to look at these warnings in detail, do head over to the Met Office website. Don't have enough time, unfortunately, when we've got this many warnings to be going through all of them in too much detail. But you can see much of this warning area will see 20 to 40 millimetres of rain. But as I said, some areas 50 to 80 millimetres, and at isolated 100 to 120 millimetres. Again, already on top of the hundreds of millimetres we've seen in these areas in the past few weeks. Also some gusty winds. And one thing I do want to take note of when we look at these warnings is the warning impact matrix. You can see this is relatively high impact, but increasing in likelihood. So there is the risk of an amber warning being issued for this, but I don't think it will at this short time frame. Do keep an eye on these warning impact matrix, especially for Storm Ciaran, as you'll be able to see that there is a huge amount of scope for upgrades in these warnings so far, for the warnings that have been issued so far. You see the warning across southern parts of Wales. Again, we've got heavy showers around today, lasting until 9 a.m. tomorrow. Again, 20 to 30 millimetres. And then the wettest spots, 40 to 50 millimetres. Low impact, but very high likelihood. And then finally, we've got this warning across southeast England that's been there for the last couple of days, and it expires tonight, as we are going to see more heavy showers continue to push in, 15 to 30 millimetres quite widely. And as we saw on the past 24 hours precipitation, many areas have already reached that amount, 50 to 70 millimetres, and of course gusty winds, 45 to 55 miles per hour are quite possible. Relatively high impact, but very low likelihood, as again it's convective based, so there is a lot of uncertainty exactly in its positioning. Now, Monday, we've got extensive warnings still issued. Of course, that Eastern Scotland warning expires. The one across South Wales expires, and we've seen both of those already. This warning across Northern Ireland is from 4 p.m. tomorrow until 3 p.m. on Tuesday, again for heavy showers, 10 millimetres possible in an hour, 30 millimetres in 6 hours. Very high likelihood, but low on impact matrix. So we're looking at lots of heavy showers again, but the impact shouldn't be too bad. And then we've got another weather warning issued across the far south coast. These are the areas, as I highlighted on the live radar, that have absolutely been peppered by convective showers in the last couple of days. And again, from midnight to tonight until 6 p.m, we've got another warning issued for coastal areas, and again 10 to 20 millimetres are possible, maybe 30 to 35. In itself probably wouldn't warrant a warning, but on top of all the rainfall we've seen so far, it could just exacerbate issues. Relatively high impact, low likelihood. Into Tuesday, we've still got that warning across Northern Ireland, so not a new warning. I think Tuesday is a bit of a down day, not too much going on before, as I said, Storm Ciaran comes in Wednesday night into Thursday. So if we do move to Wednesday, you can see we've got a widespread rain warning issued for many southern areas of England into southern parts of Wales from 6 p.m. until midnight on Thursday. Heavy rain associated with Storm Ciaran is likely to bring further disruption. Here we're looking at 20 to 25 millimetres widely, maybe 40 to 60 millimetres, and again, exacerbate the impacts as further impacts are possible. Exacerbating impacts because of the saturated ground, meaning further impacts are possible. You see, it's relatively high impact, but increasing in likelihood already at this 4-day range. Again, gives huge scope for an amber warning for rain to be issued somewhere within this warning zone. Again, most likely areas, southern Wales over the higher ground, and across the south coast, where we've already seen huge amounts of rainfall already. Again, Storm Ciaran is going to have a lot of rain, but it's At the moment, it looks like it will be mainly a wind event. Those will give the most severe impacts. Not meaning there's going to be no flooding or anything like that, but just how Storm Babet was a mainly rainfall event with some stronger winds. This will mainly be a wind event with heavy rain. And then as we head into Thursday, you can see the widespread wind warning we have for a very similar region of much of southern, eastern England, down towards the southwest and South Wales from midnight on Wednesday night until 6 p.m. on Thursday. Very strong and potentially damaging winds associated with Storm Ciaran possible on Thursday. And look at the description here. Winds are likely to gust 80 miles per hour along the south coast with a very low risk of 90 miles per hour. But I do think there is a real possibility of that. The only saving grace, as I said, is those strongest winds could just about stay offshore, and we're looking at 50 to 60 miles per hour inland, and it will start to ease from the southwest later in the day. And as I said, look at that warning impact matrix. The highest impact possible, but very low likelihood because it is still 5 days away, and it means there is great scope. If that likelihood increases, if the models start to hone in on the track of the storm, most likely we're going to see an amber warning, and there is even the possibility, if those 90 or 100 mile per hour winds become possible and are looking likely, there could be a red warning issued for this system. If we do now have a look at the latest UKV, we'll be able to see what that is producing for the next week or so, of course, looking specifically at Storm Ciaran. Now, you can see through the rest of the day, lots of heavy showers around, but it should slowly ease through this evening, but still some convective showers around, especially across South Wales and the far south coast. As we head into Monday, more heavy showers around, but nowhere near as many as we've seen over the last couple of days, with many areas seeing little to no rainfall. But still, showers around, and it could cause a few problems in places, especially in that southwest corner and across southern and eastern areas of England. Now to Tuesday, we see another low pressure system arrive. This is not Storm Ciaran. This is just a general conventional low pressure system, nothing too severe, but giving a couple hours of heavy rainfall in places and a bit of snow over the Highlands of Scotland as we head through Wednesday morning. The main event though, Storm Ciaran is out to the southwest, following about 6 to 12 hours behind that other low pressure system, and you can see its intense banding of its weather fronts, the hook appearing in the system as it moves in. Very heavy rain. You can see the centre of the low is parked over southwest England, passing through southern England. Now, the strongest winds are likely to be on its eastern and southern flank, and you can see where the precipitation band is. It's just offshore. So what that means is those ridiculous winds we're seeing, 100, 110, 120 miles per hour, most likely from this run across the channel into northern France, with 70, 80, 90 miles per hour more likely across England and Wales. So a very severe system, but the most severe impacts staying away on this latest UKV. And as it moves away, it does lose its intensity. So even though the southern flank comes on shore, the winds are now down to 60, 70 miles per hour. Still disruptive, still yellow amber warning worthy, but not the danger to life, which is a worry with the system in its current state. If you look at the mean sea level pressure, UKV is predicting a central pressure down to, I think, peaking here at 6 a.m. on Thursday of 946 millibars towards the centre of the low. And that is parked across South Wales and southwest England. Remember, the storm of 1987, again, this is not a replicate, but we can compare it, followed a very similar track and had a slightly higher central pressure by a few millibars, but in comparison, this is as severe system on the synoptics as we can see at the moment. Impacts could be completely different because of the pressure gradient, because of the positioning of the strongest winds, but from a purely synoptic pattern, they're looking very similar at this moment in time. Now, if you look at the wind gusts, you can see nothing too ridiculous when that conventional low moves in on Wednesday morning. We actually do see 60 miles per hour across coastal areas. But look what happens when Storm Ciaran approaches through the evening. We're looking at a widespread 70 or 80 miles per hour on its leading edge, especially for coastal areas, but coming inland, 60, 70 miles per hour. And then we're looking at 80 or 90 miles per hour across coastal areas of southwest England, South Wales. But look at the strongest winds. We're looking at widely over 100 miles per hour, maybe 110. And as I said, the risk of 120 just off screen to the south here. stays just offshore. Look how lucky the south coast gets. Still, as I said, seeing 60, 70, 80 miles per hour, but that swathe of 90, 100, 110 miles per hour stays just offshore by a few tens of miles. And as the system winds down and moves away, we still do see widely 60, 70 miles per hour coming further inland for much of southern and eastern areas. But the strongest winds just about stay offshore. That dark purple band just about stays off the south coast, luckily, with this system. But as I said, all could change. This system is 50 miles further northwards. That dark purple band will be slap bang across southern England, and we would be looking at, as I said, a widespread red warning most likely. But as it stands, latest UKV, we're just about missing out on those most severe impacts. Now, if you just whiz through the temperatures, again, won't focus on them too much as it is the precipitation and the wind gusts, which is the most significant issue we're seeing over the next few days. Temperatures around average for the time of year, really cooling down later this week, but nothing too significant. Again, Monday looking low teens or mid-single digits further northwards. Tuesday, again, colder further northwards, a bit of a frost, and again, low teens in the south, mid-single digits in the north. Wednesday, again, still looking low teens or maybe more towards the high single digits quite widely. And then Thursday, we're again looking maybe at mid to high single digits, with colder air wrapping in on the backside of Storm Ciaran there. So turning, as I said, colder towards the end of this working week. If you look at the latest GFS now, we'll run through this and you can see we've got low pressure in control at the moment, but nothing too severe. And then we see that initial low move in for Wednesday, and then Storm Ciaran arrives on its southern flank, severe system, and the GFS, we'll have a look at its wind gusts in a minute, but does take those most severe winds, similar to the UKV, just offshore, luckily. Eventually the low does clear, and then we see this secondary low arrive for Saturday into Sunday. Doesn't look quite as severe, down towards 950 millibars towards the centre, but the strongest winds look much further southwards here. So could still cause issues, still could be named, still likely to bring yellow warnings, maybe even amber warnings, but nowhere near as severe from the looks of it at the moment. But still a pretty significant system moving in. This probably would be, what we'd normally lead the videos with and sort of the headline if we didn't have Storm Ciaran coming a couple of days prior. Beyond that, general westerly flow does quieten a little bit, still low pressure dominated, but nowhere near as severe as we head into the middle of November, and even some signs perhaps of some high pressure trying to build in right in the extended range. Now, if you look at the latest GFS for the wind gusts over here on WX charts, as we head into Wednesday, you can see Storm Ciaran arriving, intensifying as it arrives, and you can see again those strongest winds are actually quite far southwards here. Still very strong winds across eastern England and the southeast here, but the strongest winds just staying offshore. We're still looking though perhaps at 80 miles per hour. Again, we can probably zoom into the England, Wales and Ireland look here, and again you can see as the system approaches we're still looking at 60, 70 miles per hour widely in that southeast corner, and perhaps some stronger winds on the back edge as well. But the ridiculous 100 mile per hour wind gusts are staying just to our south, again just showing you the slight differences in shape and orientation of the low could make all the difference to where those most severe winds will arrive. If you look at the latest GM, again, low pressure generally dominating. Eventually Storm Ciaran arrives as we head into Thursday. Look at the centre of the low though, it's slightly further northwards. Now this would probably bring those stronger wind gusts more towards the south coast. I must say the system's not quite as intense. If we do look at its mean sea level pressure here, it's down towards 954, 952 perhaps, so maybe 10 millibars higher than the other runs. But look where those strongest winds are, more across the south coast. As we do progress beyond that, we do see that secondary low arrive into the weekend, but nowhere near as intense, but again could cause some issues into the weekend, before eventually it stays fairly unsettled and actually quite cold with a northerly wind. Now unfortunately we can't have a look at the wind gusts, we don't have that data available, but we do have the mean wind speed, so I wouldn't look at these numbers in too much detail as we're more interested in the wind gusts, but the positioning of the strongest mean winds is important as that's likely to also correlate to where the strongest wind gusts will be as well. So you see, as we approach Wednesday, we've got very strong winds coming up across the south coast, and very similar to the other runs, the strongest winds are just in the channel, but impacting more of the south coast than the other runs were showing. Look at those very strong winds. Again, they're inevitably going to be stronger out in the ocean. They've got less resistance, of course, less hills, less buildings, so the winds are always going to be slightly stronger. But a lot more of it comes that sort of 50 miles inland, 25, 50 miles inland there. So we could be, again, looking at more severe impacts. And you can see these are the sustained winds of 90 kilometers per hour. That is looking at 60 miles per hour for sustained winds. That's really quite strong. That's approaching Category 1 hurricane status. Again, we can't get a hurricane in the UK, but just show you the power of Storm Ciaran potentially as it moves in. Now, if you look at the ECMWF, just to compare, again, low pressure dominating at the moment. The most severe storm system moves in on Thursday, again with Storm Ciaran. A very similar track to the other runs that we've been looking at. And then we see that secondary low move in for the towards the weekend, looking very intense, but actually fills in a little bit as it does progress through. And eventually we stay quite cold with northerly winds right into the extended range. And actually look at those upper temperatures, pretty chilly as we head into early November. Again, if we look at those wind gusts, again, as we approach Wednesday, very strong winds associated with Storm Ciaran, but very similar to the UKV. Extremely strong winds right along the south coast, the southeast and eastern England, the southwest, but the strongest winds, again, northern France, the Channel Islands, just up towards the Isle of Wight in the Channel Gap there. So ECWF probably slightly further northwards than the UKV in terms of its strongest winds, but still just about keeping the most severe winds offshore, and then eventually wrapping it all up as it fills in and those winds start to die down a bit as the system moves away. And then we see that secondary low move in for the weekend, but as I said, it does lose its intensity, and the strongest winds actually go much further southwards. So we're going to have to keep a very close eye on this system, but it really is looking pretty dangerous as we head towards Thursday. Finally, if we look at the ensembles, we'll look through these quite quickly as the video is starting to get a little bit long now. You can see generally temperatures around average or slightly below average over the next couple of weeks. Lots of high precipitation rates or precipitation amounts. You see this spike on Thursday, that's Storm Ciaran, and then we see the secondary spike into the weekend, and that's that second potentially named storm that we are looking at. But at this stage, still uncertain exactly how intense that will be. 2 meter temperatures on the downwards trend over the next couple of weeks, not looking great. And if we do look at the 10-meter winds, you can see real big peak there now appearing on Thursday. Still a lot of uncertainty exactly how high it will be. And again, these are sustained winds, these are not wind gusts, but notable peak appearing later this working week. And if we do look at the mean sea level pressure, look at the drop. First big drop on Thursday down towards 960 millibars from most of the ensemble members, and another drop on Saturday down towards maybe 965 millibars. Down towards 965 millibars here from quite a few of the ensembles. So really do need to keep an eye on Saturday into Sunday, as although at the moment it doesn't look as severe as Storm Ciaran, it still could really pack a punch. If we finish by looking at the ECMWF ensembles, very similar temperatures, average to below average over the next couple of weeks, but really not sort of deviating from average too much. High precipitation on Thursday, another area of high precipitation on Saturday. Those two storm systems, Storm Ciaran and the other area of low pressure. And if we do look at the sea level pressure again, big drop, 965, 960 millibars on Thursday. An even bigger drop, slightly lower pressure here for Saturday. Very interesting seeing that from the ensembles, which do look like they are turning Saturday into perhaps a deeper area of low pressure. Very interesting seeing that. As I said, the pressure doesn't mean everything. It's a very good indicator on how strong a system is, but it's also down towards the pressure gradient, how close those isobars are together. And that's why with Storm Ciaran, the southern and eastern flank, even though it's the same pressure as the northern and western flank, it is a lot more severe impacts there in terms of the wind speeds and gusts, because that gradient is so much stronger because it is closer to the European high. So that gradient means those winds are a lot stronger. So we'll have to see exactly what happens. But the next week is looking extremely lively. Thursday is looking pretty dangerous, especially the first half of the day with Storm Ciaran arriving. Details are not sort of defined at this stage, But we've got widespread yellow warnings issued. Most likely we'll see amber warnings issued over the next couple of days. And there is even a possible chance of a red warning for wind if those very strong winds of 100, 110 miles per hour get closer to the south coast. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you have enjoyed. Make sure to keep up to date with those weather warnings. Do stay safe, not only through the next couple of days with a lot of rain around, but as I said, leading into Storm Ciaran on Thursday. So as I said, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.